Well, the Dow Jones Industrials have now fallen more than 900 points over the last two trading days as Congress talks up more spending in the form of bailouts for auto companies and yet another economic stimulus plan. Perhaps not a coincidence, says Congressman Ron Paul, who thinks that more government can only make matters worse. The Texas Republican, former presidential candidate, joins me on the phone. Congressman, this is getting out of control.
Well, I figure it's been out of control for a long time, but you're right, it's really out of control now. We've already promised the car companies $25 billion, and that's in the pipeline. Now they want another $25 billion, and who knows, they'll probably get it. But I guess the question that you never ask is, where does the money come from?
Exactly.
Where does it come from? Are we going to tax people? Are we going to borrow it? Are we going to print it? Of course, most likely they'll just print it, and someday it might even cause some inflation before we know it.
All right, but you know my worry with it, if you are going to do these bailouts or rescues, Congressman, and I'm against them, at least put some, sticking points in there, some provisos, some demands that I will give you this, but here's what you've got to do. And we don't. We don't even do that. It's almost as if we're the ones giving the money, and we're ashamed to say, would you mind doing this? You don't have to pay it back, but would you mind? And then they get insulted and say, no. No restrictions at all.
Yeah, that's it. I don't usually think of terms on the conditions we give away money because I don't want to do it. But right. I think you're right. I think your suggestion a few minutes ago is a very good suggestion. Why give it to the people who drove these companies into bankruptcy? I mean, everybody knows that you have ups and downs. Why don't you plan for a rainy day?
Well, I tell you this, Congressman, you would stop this running to the well if you told them you could run to the well, but you'd have to quit. You'd have to resign. You'd have to fire your own ass in order for us to bail you out. But that, of course, that's not going to happen.
No, that isn't. They're not going to do it, but I think it's a good suggestion.
All right, so now spell it out about what it means. Now, the options to pay for this are few and far between, but you could raise taxes, and I don't think even raising on the upper income comes close to covering this. They could cut spending, as you've long advocated. That'll never happen. So we just print money, right?
Yep, that's going to be it. And already there's this line of credit through the Fed and all of these programs. Somebody figured it out that we've already have offered up and promised up to maybe $5 trillion. And what do the markets do? They keep going down. So this isn't the answer at all. This is credit allocation. This is the same argument I made in the 70s when we bailed out Chrysler. And they said, well, we got all our money back, fine, but somebody else didn't get credit. It always hurt somebody. This time, though, I don't think we're going to get the money back, and we're just going to end up with a very weak dollar. But, I've complained, as you have heard me say many times, it's the monetary system, and that we'll have to have a new system. But they're already planning this meeting that they're having on November 15th.
I have no idea. I don't know what will come of that meeting. I know I'm covering it, so I'm going to be down in Washington, so I'm going to build it up, Congressman, and say it's a big deal. But, man, I don't know what they can do. I guess they can get a global credit line. They can combine all the countries' Visa and MasterCard credit lines and come up with something. What?
For the people who believe in big government, they're going to use this as an excuse for bigger government. They want worldwide regulations, and they want a world-class reserve currency. Well, the dollar has served as a world reserve currency poorly, and we should have never had it this way. But they're going to have another world currency reserve, some SDR approach, which means, though, I think more loss of sovereignty, more control of our own destiny. I mean, we're going to be beholden to the UN to write our regulations, the WTO. There'll be a lot more of that. But I think this is just an excuse to expand power and control, just like you have an emergency like 9/11. It's an excuse for people to bring about things that have been proposed all along. I mean, things like the Patriot Act, they were all in the books. They were all planned, and they're looking for good excuse. Now,
and then we set up big bureaucracies to reinforce it. Here's the one caveat I hear from those who like this sort of thing and don't fear what you fear about the dollar, Congressman. That is, if you think we stink, they stink more. In other words, that for all of our excessive borrowing and big government, their push for even more borrowing and bigger government is going to make their currencies, by comparison, look even worse. Do you buy that?
Yeah, I do. I do to a large degree. But that didn't keep us from participating in worldwide malinvestment because people took all these dollars. All that did was allow the bubble to get bigger than ever because we were getting away with with economic murder. We were able to print for years and years, export our inflation. Now everybody holds these dollars, and I know they can't dump the dollars all at once, and they want it to hold together until they get a new system devised. Otherwise, the whole thing comes down on their heads. And essentially, that is what's happening, and they're just trying to buy time right now until they devise this new system.
You're right. Congressman, it's always a pleasure. You were warning about this before anyone was. Ron Paul, the former presidential candidate, good having you.